So you moved to Sydney when you were 17.
Yeah.
What was that like? It must have been a big jump.
Oh, it was very traumatic.
Right.
I'm still kind of healing from it because I kind of avoided it for a long time. But I feel like with music, and then now that I'm doing this properly, it's like opening wounds that, I should have gotten over.
So you're finding with music you're being able to express things that maybe you'd sort of just left
No,
before?
it's weird because it's not like I write about my move. Like, I think that's what I'm doing now because it's so obvious, but it's more of my identity.
Okay.
Like everyone being like, so you moved to Australia, how did that feel? And then I have to relive that pain again. Or I live in Australia, but my music's quite UK based. So it's like my music shows who I am. And like I kind of try to ignore that. Like I'm obviously influenced by UK, but I also live in Australia. So I've been working with Australian producers. So it's something I can't run away from. Like it's who I am now, but for the longest I tried to avoid that.
Interesting. So how have you found the music scene in Australia and getting to know those producers and working with people and creators out there?
It's cool. I think because I have a good team, they put me in the rooms with the right people,
Yep.
but I was scared to ask because I just didn't know what my sound was, and I knew that it didn't fit into Australian sound 100%. So sometimes I felt like I was unheard. But if it wasn't for, artists that have, pushed through into like different worlds, my music is kind of easier to explain. So I'd be like, oh, like this, but more like this. So like I kind of, when I have like a reference track, it's like 3 songs into one, or I describe the emotion or feeling. So it's getting there. It's just about communication, and I just didn't know how to communicate what was in my head, and I still struggle. So, but hopefully with these songs, people will start to understand. Yeah.
Well, I could definitely relate to that. I think, and I've seen your music described as a blend of R&B and indie, which is quite an interesting combo as well. Who were your biggest inspirations musically?
Oh gosh.
It's a tough question.
It's a lot. I think it depends. It's so weird how I look at my voice and my sound. I think musically, obviously the 2000s, because that's my childhood, and that's where I was like
100%.
learning and listening to new music. But then if I'm singing in my head voice, then maybe, like 70s, 60s, where female like soul singers sang in their head voice a bit more, and it wasn't like, ew, why are you weird? And then obviously Amy Winehouse was like, made me realize, oh, I can be jazzy and cool and like have a certain tone that doesn't fit mainstream sounds, but it is mainstream because it's good. That helped me. I had like Back to Black album for, I think it was my 15th or 14th birthday.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, like this is, I was like, this is jazzy, but like I kind of feel like I fit into this world vocally, but production wise, I wanted to explore, I wanted to do more. And then I heard about like soul electronic and like Xavier Omar, and then like, like Selection, where like people were doing different sounds, but it still was like R&B or hip hop and soul, but it was a mix of something else, and jazz, and like Masego, like literally everyone has inspired me.
But I suppose that's part of the way now that we just consume everything through the internet. Do you think that it's become easier to blend genres because of that? And also,
100%.
Public opinion's kind of changed too, because it's no longer that you have to fit in these boxes now. You can be a bit of this, bit of that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I feel like I used to beat myself up being like, oh, I wish I did, my music properly during SoundCloud days, because then I don't have to worry about social media and da-da-da.
Yeah.
But I think I needed to experience those sounds, or the audiences need to experience that sound, so that when I came out, it wasn't like, what is this, it was just definitely the internet helped with me figuring out my sound. And then like everyone says I sound like Georgia Smith, and it's like, cool, but like she actually did inspire me, because I heard someone that did sound similar to me that was, I think I just needed representation. I felt like I don't have that soulful like gospel voice, and then I don't have the like pop voice. Like I kind of play about with jazz without even knowing that I'm doing those things. And so obviously neo soul, like Erykah Badu and stuff. So it's just, honestly, I can't tell you who it is, because there's so many people from different times and different genres that make me.
For sure, but I think that's kind of, we're all moving into the 21st century, and a lot of people are kind of thinking along those lines with different blends of genres, and that fits your story as well of moving to Australia at 17. and then coming back to the UK this week, you've got a feature with a music video. Which
on Sunday I'm doing a music video, and it's cool. I never really expected to get a feature so soon into my career, but I think it makes sense, and the song's quite summery vibes, so it's gonna fit UK summer, and it's cool. I didn't really think that I would go back to London. I just kind of thought that I just didn't fit in a little bit, and I just kind of accepted that I'll probably just make a world in Australia, but it's just like a full circle. It's really weird.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing the summary tune.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm excited for it.
Oh, and you've written about heartbreak on your first couple of songs. That's kind of been the theme. Do you see yourself writing about other topics in future? What else have you got planned?
Yeah, I've got a handful of songs that I'm releasing this year, and with visuals. But next year I want to do an EP, and I think the EP will be more in depth with who I am as a person, who I am today.
More of a chance to tell a story as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas these songs that I will be releasing, some of them I made in 2000, like the 3 songs I'm releasing, I made in 2017.
Wow.
So that's why they're like, at that time I was going through heartbreak.
Does it feel weird kind of releasing them now?
Yes.
When it's so distant to you?
Yes. Sometimes I get frustrated being like, I'm not who that person anymore. But I have to realize that if I don't release it, I'll do myself a disservice, because
it's good songs. Yeah,
it's good songs, and I have to get over whatever I was feeling at that time, which I'm feeling right now, like moving. And I think I need, in order for me to become a better artist, I have to get over the move and realizing that the move was actually beneficial for me. Yeah.
I always say as well, like, I think if you're not looking back and a bit frustrated or embarrassed by what you were sort of writing or doing creating 5 years ago, it probably means you haven't improved. So it's good that you can kind of put distance between that. You know?
Yeah, they're good. It's just more of like, oh, I'm not even going through that anymore.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I probably will again. So I just feel like at least I'm making songs that live, and it's not just a timestamp of how I felt. And also it's nice to hear other people's like, oh, I'm going through this right now and it's helping. I was like, oh, I didn't really expect that. I just kind of write like a diary. Each song is a diary entry. So I just kind of write a song, leave it, forget about it. And then if it's good, I might finish it or forced to finish it.
Yeah.
But so each song is like a diary entry of feelings at the time. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. So it's quite a cathartic process for you. It's allowing you to vent.
Yeah. And that's why I struggle with writer's block. Yeah. Like there's this one song that is explaining how I feel right now, and I can't finish it. I just can't do it.
Wow.
I think I just don't want to face it.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
It's like an emotional block.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's an interesting point. And I think one thing about moving to Australia at that age, and then obviously kind of being between the Australia and music scene and the UK music scene. One thing I found since moving to London, it's been really hard for me to make friends and sort of find my crowd, especially when I first moved here. Now it's a lot easier. Do you think that with the way that in general people are moving so much around the globe, with the way that everything in terms of community seems to have moved online, it's harder to form those bonds now and build those communities locally? Yeah,
it's true. I feel like actually now looking back, half of the people I know have been through like institutions like uni or school, and then it will be like friend of a friend of a friend of a friend. And then but recently some of them are like people I've just spoken for years online and been like, let's just meet up.
Yeah.
And then we meet up and then we click and we're like, why didn't we do this earlier? It's a bit hard finding your crowd. I think you will never find your crowd 100%. You just need to be with people that you grow with. And it doesn't have to be in the same, field, but just know that I'm doing my job, you're doing your job. We catch up. It doesn't feel like anything's, missed out. Because, like, literally, I haven't seen my friends in the UK for time. And I've met up with them and it feels like I saw them yesterday.
Yeah.
So that's when I know that that's the right person in my life.
Those are the best friends. Yeah. When you can check back in, haven't seen them in ages.
Exactly.
And it just feels like,
And you can talk about different subjects than what you did when you were younger. Or, like, let's say I'm talking, instead of me talking about, me moving to Australia, now it's like my issues I have with being an artist. Like, it's like a different thing I can talk about instead of it just being like I feel like you're only remembering me before I, moved. Yeah.
And it's useful, I guess, to have people that knew you before you moved as well.
Of course,
because then they can relate your new experiences to how you were.
Sometimes I feel like I've lost myself, but then my friends or family would say, "No, you've always been like this." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool."
It's good to know.
I haven't lost myself. Or sometimes they'd be like, "You were always this person," and I'm like, I don't remember being that person, but I'm glad that you remember me like that, because that's kind of my goal of who I want to be again. Because obviously moving did chip away some qualities that I naturally had, because obviously I was in survival mode. So yeah.
I mean, you've touched upon that in previous interviews. What was that like, just as an experience, if you had to describe it?
It's weird. I remember crying, being like, I'm never going to be this depressed in my life.
Wow.
Then COVID came, and I was like, rah, I'm more depressed than I ever was when I first moved to Australia. It's different types of sadness. I think it was just loneliness. I just felt like I was alone. I was unheard. I kind of was like, oh, my life's over.
And you've spoken about wanting to disappear as well, almost like sort of like sink further into that loneliness and kind of just become a bit reclusive too.
And I think that's why I'm struggling with this music thing, where everyone's asking about myself and what do you like? What's your favorite? And I'm like, I don't even know. Like, I literally stopped caring about myself for years, and now it's just like I actually was neglecting myself, and it made me realize that there's so many other ways to cope with stuff. You don't have to, kill yourself to survive. Like, what's the point of being like a walking dead and living life? Like, life's not about that. So I feel like I had to go through that to experience, to never do that again. I hope not. I don't want to, something happens and then I become a shell of myself again and lose who I am. But yeah, through music, that helped.
I was going to say, it sounds like music seems to be like a really empowering part of your journey now. It's giving you the tools to move on, and almost in the way that you're venting through songwriting, you're also discovering more about yourself as well whilst doing that, which I think is really, really great. Yeah,
it is. Even down to my voice. Like, I hated my voice.
Wow.
Yeah. I feel like sometimes I was just a bit like, am I good at music, or is it just because I like to do it?
Okay.
It's a lot. It's very overwhelming. This whole process is overwhelming. It's not just, I'm making music and I like to do it. It's like I literally stopped myself from growing, and now I'm like reaping the badness of stopping myself from growing. And then now I'm ready, but I'm thrown in the deep end, because it's like I have to rehash certain emotions I avoided to get past, to be who I'm really meant to be.
So you're very ambitious though as well, though. You were speaking earlier before we went live about how you would love to sort of bounce between the UK, Australia, and maybe even, move to America at some point as well. Yeah.
Even Canada. Like, Canada's on my list.
Wow.
I was a bit like,
is there a list like written out, or is it?
It's like it's been over a few years where I was a bit like, if I had to move somewhere, I'll move to Canada, because it's like there's a Caribbean culture, because in Australia there's not much.
Right.
Well, in Sydney it's a little bit, but not like the UK. So I was like, at least like, there's a Caribbean culture. It's close to America, because I kind of don't like being close to stuff. Like, I like to be there, but I don't want to be in the world of things. But I think that's what I need in life. Like, I always try to isolate myself. So I was like, oh yeah, it's only like a flight away from America. So if I had to do work, I'll just go to America. When I don't, I dip and no one knows me. So yeah, that's why I thought of Canada. But
amazing.
Yeah, I would love to, go to LA, New York, and any other place.
Yeah, and the songwriting in LA as well, like the people you can meet there.
Exactly.
Really cool,
yeah, that's my plan. I just want to travel and just experience cultures and people and write about it. And then when I'm ready to settle down, I can figure out. I don't know. I guess that would determine my partner, because I don't know who I'm gonna marry.
Yeah.
I honestly have no idea. At first, I was like, oh, maybe my husband's in Sydney. That's the reason why I moved to Australia. Nope. He is not there.
Fair enough.
He is not there.
No one in Sydney?
No, Sydney is a bit dead. Maybe.
It's interesting you say that about Sydney, though, because I also found that when I lived there for a short while, is that it was quite hard to sort of find the music scene and find people that I could relate to.
Yeah. To be honest, it's taken me years to find a crowd, but that was also, I was being shy as well. But it's very like, oh, you're a singer? My brother's a singer. I'll connect with you. And then you meet the brother, and then da-da-da and da-da. And whereas obviously growing up in London, I know most people, I went to the Brit school. So it's like the people that I knew were just in my life, where when you move to a different country, you have to do it again. And I wasn't prepared to do it again.
100%. You mentioned the Brit school as well. Obviously, it's a while ago for you now, but what was that like as like a formative musical experience? Because I can imagine it's amazing to be surrounded by so many other creative people, but it's also a bit of a weird one, I guess, when you leave and then you're no longer in that environment anymore. Was that a tough move for you?
Well, I did go to another performing arts school in Sydney. My mum tried to pacify me like that, but that was the worst thing. I mean, I found long-term friends, but that really... I was thrown in the deep end, and they overlooked me. They did not care about my sound. I felt like I wasn't nurtured.
Right.
I felt like it made me go back in a hole. I think I've always been a shy person. Even at the Brit school, I was doing things, but even my friends were like, I'm so happy you're doing this. I remember you had a nice voice, but you was really shy. Like, I feel like I've just always been shy, but it was more of, I had so much fun and I met great people. So it was more of, I could be free and creative and be around like-minded people, and it wasn't
100%.
And then I met different people from different aspects of the arts, because it's such a different group of people in the arts industry, so it made me a bit more open-minded, and it was nice to support people even though I wasn't ready. I knew I wasn't ready. It was just cool. It was a good time.
And I guess really kind of that's what you're aiming for as an artist, is, as you say, people that are going to grow with you and support each other. So I hope you continue to grow. I hope you continue to release amazing tunes as well. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
My pleasure.